What I'm going to go over now is the project data list, part 1. Part 1 is going to go over strictly this main top window, the organization of the project data list. Part 2 is going to focus more on this bottom part of the window, which deals with the source, the files, and other information related to the data sets. So let's have a look at this project data list. What we've got is a number of rows. Each of these rows indicate a data set, which can be in time, it can be individual shot. In this case, we've got 20 shots in time. They can be in frequency. These are some velocity semblance and constant velocity stacks. They can be in depth. It's a way to organize the data, and we can name that data, although there's ways to automate that as well. Any particular data set that we add, we can use these toolbars at the top to do that. If we want to add a 2D or a 3D data set or import from an existing VISTA project. So here I'm going to create a new data set. I'll just call it shot raw. And now I'm going to use this plus key. There's a number of different formats that VISTA supports as disk files. Again, we could be importing directly from a tape drive as well if we're in a flow, so there's other ways to create or add data into your project. Here's that disk file importer, so it allows us to look at the seg-y, choose 2D data unstacked, the real header, binary, trace header, looking at the various traces and the data itself. And I'm just going to go OK. This shows our min-max of importing using the particular dictionary that we brought in. And here's our raw shots at the bottom. We can actually drag that and move that up in the data set. We can use these to actually move them up and down in the project data list itself. These other tools allow us to do things like create a 3D data set to import. We can import from an existing VISTA header or VISTA project. So I can choose data set there. Scroll down. You can see that data set, which is imported from the small land 3D. So this brings in all the associated files as well. The other thing that we can do is organize. You can see at the top we've got some different groups. Initially there are no groups. This allows us to actually select data sets and define them. So this main data contains all of the project data, but what we can do is create a new group and then select data sets that we'd like to move into that group. If we go into any window that needs us to select a data set, it shows the entire data sets or those particular selected groups. So the data groups are a handy way to actually divide up the data, to organize it, and when we output through a flow, we can decide what group that we've created that it would go into. It's quite easy for us to also remove, so at any point we can go to these groups and remove them. And again, removing them, the group is simply going to remove the association of this group. It doesn't remove the data. Anytime we're selecting data, it's a spreadsheet, so we can hold the control key to select individuals or hold the shift key to select groups. We can go and delete them directly from here, protect from deletion, or we can hit this minus and delete this way. So it's a quick overview of the project data list. Some of the other features on here, it allows us quick access. Instead of going through the interactive, we have a quick way to get to something like plotting the seismic. That icon, this goes to the geometry window. This is the statics window. So this icon appears if we're dealing with unstacked data. So it allows us to actually go directly into the statics window. Again, we could do that same thing by going through the statics and elevation refraction. So that's the same window. Or the attribute window. That goes directly into the surface display of that data set. We've got the header display, which we've gone over before in the previous video. And this HF is the min-max. So when we've imported a disk file or when we've run a flow, We can see those min-max values of the VISTA headers themselves. And the final one here is when we've run a flow and that's actually created an output. So in these cases we can click on a data set and that's the flow that created that data set. So that's quick access to that flow that created the data set. So that's a quick rundown of the project data list. This is the part 1 of that.